Good morning and welcome to Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Vaughan Amaré. Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living is a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. And Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes where? In our lives. And our promise is to reveal, inspire, uplift, celebrate, and magnify your greatness. We acknowledge our presence here on the traditional and unceded lands of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and Coastal Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of Indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. In a similar fashion, we acknowledge that so much of what we know in this country today, including its culture, economic growth, and development throughout history and across time, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their ascendants, who suffered the horrors of transatlantic trafficking, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We also name the Asian and Chicano people who toiled with little recognition. We are indebted to their labor and sacrifice, and we acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and the resulting impacts that can still be felt and witnessed today. Please join me for our opening song, In This Very Room, by Ron and Carol Harris. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For Spirit, sweet Spirit, is in this very room. In this very room.
Well, good morning, all. Thank you for being here. And so we're going to go into meditation this morning. So allow yourselves to get comfortable in your seats. Resting your feet firmly on the floor. Hands in your lap in an open and upright position. And allowing your eyes to close. And so we're going to take 3 deep cleansing breaths in and out together. So let's breathe in and let it go. Let's breathe in again. And let it go. And one more time, in and letting it go. And so as we allow our breath to go back to its normal pattern of in and out, in and out, we just allow ourselves to get more and more relaxed. And so this month, we celebrate Thanksgiving. But we know and understand that every moment is an opportunity to give thanks. And so what we're going to do is go on a journey of gratitude. And we're going to start this journey by saying silently to ourselves things that we're grateful for in the world. These don't have to be specific to you. We'll get to that. It's things that are more general. Like I give thanks for flowers. I give thanks for the sun. I give thanks for air. And so just be in this place of giving thanks. Just allow the thanksgiving to just pour. Keep with all that you're thankful for. What are you grateful for? And so let us continue this journey, this journey of gratitude. And we're now giving thanks for things in our lives, for things about yourself. For instance, I give thanks that I'm able to see. I give thanks that I'm able to walk. I give thanks that I can hear. I give thanks for my home. I give thanks for my friends. Give thanks for those things that are related to you. How wonderful it is to be you. Giving thanks for all that you are, all the ways that you show up in the world. Just be in a place of gratitude for every single cell in your body. Giving thanks. And so as we continue on our journey of gratitude, we move on to those things yet to be. Those things that we are calling forward in our lives. Those manifestations that we are right now choosing to manifest. And we're giving thanks for them in the present tense, not for them in the future. We're giving thanks for them being here and right now. So it might sound like I give thanks that I'm a multimillionaire. I give thanks that I'm in a right and perfect loving relationship. I'm giving thanks for this beautiful house on the beach. I'm giving thanks for the magnificence that I am. What are you grateful for that has yet to manifest in the physical form but is already present in spirit? Grateful for. Oh my. And so as we stand in this gratitude, we know that gratitude is something that is always with us, something that we can always express. It is a change agent in our lives. It raises our vibration. It takes us to places we never thought we could go. And so as we come back into this room, we come back into this space, we come back with the knowingness that at any time we can express gratitude. I give thanks for this. I let it be. And so it is. So we do the reading now, or are we doing something? Do I do that?
Well, you can.
Okay, well, let's do our declaration. Okay, let's say this 3 times together and then fall over. Okay.
Long way down.
It is. Okay, here we go.
We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential.
One more time.
We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential.
Now the reading. You know what it is. The ah. Knew I was going to get it. Okay. So, the title is How to Practice Gratitude When You're Depressed. 8 ways. And so you can take, it doesn't have to be depressed, it could be sad, it could be things not going your way, it can be whatever emotion that is not an upbeat, happy emotion, okay? Depression makes you feel worthless and overwhelmingly sad, causing you to isolate yourself from others and stop participating in activities that once brought you joy. So when someone comes along and says, try to be grateful for the good things in your life, you might just want to scoff at them and think, yeah, okay. And we get that. When considering how to practice gratitude when depressed, it's 100% understandable to feel that way. With that being said, there is some merit to the idea. Gratitude and depression seem to be polar opposites. But research shows that practicing gratitude can be a valuable tool in your arsenal. Things to understand about gratitude. If the thought of practicing gratitude seems impossible, as I fall over, okay, let's get our bearing here. Okay, let's try that again. I'm going to hold on this time. If the thought of practicing gratitude seems impossible, that could be because you have a skewed idea of what it actually is. Perhaps you've been told, be thankful, others have it much worse than you. Or you have so much to be grateful for, don't complain. I know this is real. I've gotten the one, oh, that's a first world problem. If that's the case, it's no wonder you've built up a wall against how to practice gratitude when depressed. So let's set some things straight about this whole gratitude thing. Maybe then you'll be a little more open to the whole idea. Okay, 1, gratitude isn't some pie-in-the-sky ideal you can just expect to achieve. Focusing on positive aspects of your physical and mental health takes conscious decision. While depression can do a number on both your body and your mind, it is possible to exercise your gratitude muscle to strengthen it. You just may have to work on it a little harder. But as with any exercise, the more you work on it, the stronger that muscle becomes, and the easier and more natural it will feel. Before long, if you commit to it, you'll master how to practice gratitude when depressed. 2, you can experience gratitude and other feelings simultaneously. Okay? Your emotions and feelings are complex. Rarely do you ever feel one single thing at any given moment. It's important to understand that you can experience feelings of sadness, anger, and grief alongside gratitude. 3, recognize that it's okay if you struggle with feeling grateful. Your feelings are neither good nor bad. Feelings just are. So if you find yourself feeling ungrateful, it's okay. You're not doing anything wrong. Attempting to focus on things that foster gratitude is a practice. Sometimes it can feel more forced than others. That's okay. The important thing is that you're trying and you continue to try. 4, there are measurable benefits to practicing gratitude. While practicing gratitude alone won't cure depression, it positively impacts your life. Several studies have shown a positive correlation between gratitude and depression. It may take time, but when you master how to practice gratitude when depressed, you'll experience greater life satisfaction, better sleep quality, a greater likelihood of seeking help for health concerns, increased self-esteem, feeling more optimistic, improved relationships. Here we go into the tips for practicing gratitude while depressed, okay? While sad, while unhappy. Okay, now that we've established that how gratitude is possible and that you don't have to feel bad if you're not good at it, let's get into how to actually practice it. First one is to connect with others. Yes, we know this is a challenging one, especially if you're battling depression. Hey, we said it might take work, right? While you may want to hide in your room away from everyone, isolating yourself isn't going to help. When learning how to practice gratitude when depressed, you have to make a conscious effort to spend time with others. Doing so can help you combat loneliness and depression. Obviously, it would be best to spend time with supportive people, not people who drain you. That's a key right there. One crucial point about spending time with others is that you don't put any expectation on the results of hanging out with people. Just do your best to stay present in the moment. The second one is focus on something that doesn't hurt. Depression can manifest itself as physical discomfort. You may get headaches, body aches, or stomach aches. To get better at practicing gratitude, think about a part of your body that doesn't hurt and be thankful for that. Even if it's your right thumb or eyebrow, you can still be grateful they don't hurt. It may sound silly, but it actually is an excellent way to practice gratitude as often as possible. Try taking it one step further and saying what you're grateful for out loud. There's power in voicing your gratefulness. 3, this one's interesting. Write out an ingratitude list. Yes, we said it, an ingratitude list. Sometimes separating out the things you're not grateful for can help you determine what you are grateful for. Examine your list and think about each thing you list. Perhaps you have a guitar you used to really enjoy playing, but has gathered layers of dust in the corner of your room. Did you write that you're ungrateful for it just because it sits there, unplayed, making you feel bad about yourself? Or are you just intending or are just not interested in it due to your depression? When you determine the things you're ungrateful for, consider unpacking them away or donating them so you don't have to feel ungrateful every time you see them. Number 4, focus on when you've experienced kindness from someone else. Depression and gratitude may not seem to go together, especially when your feelings of self-deprecation and worthlessness. Perhaps you feel like nobody does anything for you because you don't feel worth it right now. But when learning to practice gratitude, try to think of a time when someone extended a kindness to you and made you feel special or happy. Think about teachers, family members, friends, or even the kindness of strangers. Focusing on those memories and being grateful for them can help you feel a sense of love and worth. Number 5, look externally to find gratefulness. When you're fighting depression, you likely focus internally. You feel sad, lonely, sick, exhausted, and unmotivated to do anything. To strengthen your gratitude muscle, try focusing on something external that you can be grateful for. It can be something small, like the framed art on your wall you bought because it reminds you of a happy time, or maybe even the comfy sweatshirt you're wearing. There's no such thing as too small when it comes to practicing gratitude. As you get stronger at it, you'll be able to look even further externally and eventually perhaps even inward to find gratefulness. Number 6, do something nice for someone. Thanks to the 2000 Haley Joel Osment film, You've likely heard of the term pay it forward. Yes, finding the energy or desire to do something nice to help someone else can be challenging, but helping others is a great mood booster, and it gives you a little perspective on something to show gratitude for. Number 7, express your gratitude in some way. As we've said earlier, in tip number 2, there is a lot of power in putting a voice to your gratitude. Even if you don't say something you are grateful for out loud, you can text or email it. Or if you have gratitude and an ingratitude journal, write it down. Eventually, you'll have a long list of things to help you practice gratitude. When you feel comfortable reading the list aloud, you'll give even more power to your thankfulness. And then finally, number 8, make space for gratitude and all your emotions. Just because we're telling you it's important to learn how to practice gratitude when depressed doesn't mean we think you should be devoid of other emotions. On the contrary, your emotions are valid, all of them, not just gratitude. When learning how to practice being grateful and you're feeling multiple emotions, analyze what you're feeling. Allow yourself to feel anger about whatever is making you that way. Then try practicing gratitude. There's room for both. And so it is.
Can you forward the link to that?
Oh, absolutely.
I will send it.
Okay.
So you can see the words to the song. I give thanks for all the little things that bring me smiles every day. I give thanks for all the gentle things that guide me on my way. I give thanks for all the helpful things that lift me up to say, I feel thankful, I feel grateful. I feel thankful, I feel grateful, I feel thankful, so much gratitude. And then the second time through is you, third time through is we, final time through is back to I, and I hope by that time we've sung it through so many times we can notice if there's a shift in how we're feeling it. I give thanks for all the little things that bring me smiles every day. I give thanks for all the gentle things that guide me on my way. I give thanks for all the helpful things that lift me up to stay. I feel thankful, I feel grateful, I feel thankful, I feel grateful, I feel thankful, so much gratitude.
darkness closes in and you can't find your way. The doubts you drag around only seem to say, how can you make it on your own? Remember, you're never alone. Lean to me, I will raise you up. Gather your faith and we'll walk on water. And hold out your hand when you can't go on. Let go and lean into me. Longing to be filled with peace that overflows. To hear my quiet voice, just be still and know in every sacred silence I'm only a whisper away. Lean to me, I will raise you up. Gather your faith and we'll walk on water. And hold out your hand when you can't go on. Let go and lean into me. With every leap of faith, there's a risk you may slip and stumble. Leave what you've known behind, out on the edge you'll find. I won't let you fall. Lean to me, I will raise you up. And gather your faith and we'll walk on water. Hold out your hand when you can't go on. Let go and lean to me. Let go and lean to me.
So obviously that song was Lean Into Me by Stephen Mitchell. And I wanted to come to that song for today's talk because with the notion of gratitude, with the notion of Thanksgiving, once again, in accordance with Stephanie, how she always does it with Reverend Pamela, between the meditation and the talk, mine is just going to be an affirmation of what we've already learned so well from Stephanie. So I wanted us to pay attention to the darker side that comes with Thanksgiving, because this is a time when many people start to feel feelings of grief, feelings of loss, feelings of sadness, feelings, in this part of the world, it's getting darker. There are some people who really don't revel in the greater hours of darkness. There are some people who don't appreciate the longer nights and the shorter days. There are people who may not feel an abiding love of the intermittent rainfall and the intermittent wet roads and the intermittent disastrous turns that traffic can take. I want us to be able to embrace and acknowledge that those feelings of depression, those feelings of grief, those feelings of sadness, those feelings of anxiety all exist. One of the things that can be very provocative about the Science of Mind teachings can be summed up with the word, it's all good.
Yeah.
When you hear that, for me, I just want to vomit a little bit. vomit inside of my mouth, or, you know, just like, I hear that and I'm like, talk to the hand, you know, just stop it. This was an interesting week for me. The 15th marked the anniversary of my mom's birthday. And my mom passed away a couple of years ago, so it was just a very striking day, because there's that bittersweet quality that comes with that. There were things that I absolutely adored about my mother, and there were things about my mother that drove me crazy. I mean, my mother met Michael, and she's like, how do you stand him? I mean, you know, my mother was not always, you know, when I came out to her, she's like, well, you know, I'll always love you even if no one else in the world ever will. I remember as I was growing in terms of my own sense of maturity and being able to separate a little bit, because so much of my identity had taken root in the process of being the fixer at home. My parents had a very complicated relationship, largely because my dad was not a monogamous kind of person. It just wasn't his jive. It wasn't his jam. And at one point, you know, it was years later that I figured out what was going on, but we got to play with this little boy down in the basement, which was our space. Meanwhile, I guess what was happening upstairs is my mother and the other woman were fighting over who was going to get to keep my father. And my mother's reaction to this, my mother's reaction to having somebody who was around sometimes and around not other times, was that her mom moved in with us. And then my mom and my grandmother were really close, and my dad was kind of on the outside of that picture. So it was a very complex thing. And my grandmother was never hesitant to say how much she disliked my father. And my father was never hesitant to say how much he disliked my grandmother. So I was raised in this position of trying to have so many discordant people be happy. And my mother was the kind of person who really genuinely said, if you can't say something nice about someone, don't say anything at all. And I was very happy when my sister and I both learned the quote from Winston Churchill, if you can't say something nice about somebody, come over and sit by me. Because that's much more about how I felt about the things that were going on. And I go into all of this background about my mother and what it brings up as I remember her birthday, and as I remember her, that it's complex. All of these feelings that exist are complex. And if I just gloss it over and say that she was the best person in the world, you don't get a full picture. You don't get the full understanding of what it is that made me who I am today. Because if I only had that one side, I don't know that I could have come out to myself. I ended up getting married because I thought it was the right thing to do. I knew I wanted kids, so if you want kids, the only way to have kids is to get married. The problem is that I was never really sexually interested in the person that I married. And in point of fact, she was never really particularly sexually interested in me, which is why we were perfect to get married to each other. Because she was able to go back to the person that she had fallen in love with as a teenager, and I actually helped them get back together.
Yes.
I didn't know it at the time, but she said, you know, I'd really like to get back with Anne, but her mother hates my guts. She didn't tell me the story about why her mother hated the guts, but you know, I think if you call, because remember you met Anne in college, and she was kind of friendly to you, and just call Anne's mom, and tell her you met Anne in college, and I did, and Anne's mother was so delighted. Mm-hmm. Anne's mother was as equally delighted as Elisa's mother when Elisa met me, because she was like, oh man, it's the cure to my daughter's being a lesbian. So if it's a man calling, then this is a good sign. So I got Elisa and Ann back together. It was only after they'd been together for a while that they told me, oh, by the way, we had been lovers. Oh. And again, I go into all of these details because sometimes it's these details behind a story that tell you more about who a person is. And the other part about telling the story is that the story becomes a way to reestablish all the places for gratitude. Now, I've told you before, my relationship with my ex-wife hit some low points. There was a time when I felt suicidally depressed, and my ex-wife's encouragement was, she said, you know, it's great if you kill yourself and you do it in a way that doesn't get caught as suicide, then we'll make out really well on the insurance. And we'll have lots of money for me and Ann and the girls and Ann's little boy. It'll work out really well. You know, but it took that to be able to have a light turn on and say, I don't know that she loves me in the way that a married relationship should have love expressed. But it really took that. Again, one of the things that I've said before is we would give gifts, and like my gift to her, you know, I'd give her something, and then her gift to me was she'd be getting her own massages for herself. So my gift for Christmas was her year of massages to herself, which was a puzzling kind of gift to me. But the attitude was, well, she'll feel comfortable, so you'll feel comfortable, and everybody will be happy. So, the first thing I want to talk about is, how do we deal with difficult people? Take a moment. I want you to, imagine the stream of people in your life. And just think on if you can find anybody that you would identify as a difficult people. And when you have it, let me know. When you've got your difficult people, just give some indication. I'm seeing Victor nod. I'm seeing some nods. This wasn't a hard task. This was not a challenge of difficulty. One of the things about difficult people is we may wonder, how do I feel grateful here? How do I feel grateful here? Well, I remember when I was in practitioner studies, I was seeing a practitioner, and I had a coworker who drove me bonkers. I would be looking out for a child. I'm like, this child really needs additional help. And that person's response to me every single time was, you can guess it, no. This child has autism, and this child just isn't doing well in the regular class because there's all this demand on him to be neurotypical, and he just needs some time away. Couldn't he be in the room for the other kids that have autism? No. Well, I thought they had this room for the kids that have autism so that they can kind of learn and build skills together. No. I just couldn't find any way around the no. So I went to my practitioner wringing my hands because I was really tired of no matter what, no matter how persuasive, no matter how I wrote it, no matter how angry parents got, that I'd be saying, well, let's see what we can do. And the response from the program specialist was no. What my practitioner invited me to do was, what's one thing that you can think about that person that's a positive thing? What's one thing? And I'm like really struggling. It was not like an easy task, but it's like, okay, this person always looks good. This person always looks so professional. This person always looks put together. So my practitioner's invitation to me was to be grateful for this person. Always focus on the thing about them that you appreciate, the thing about them that you can look at and you can you can see and feel positive about. She always dressed beautifully. So I always made a point of telling her, I really like what you put together. That outfit is amazing. And you know, as I started to come to that one point, that one thing, the amount of no's decreased. Part of it was that my own energy shifted because I wasn't this aggravated, annoying person who was always asking, please, 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 please. Have you ever had someone do that to you? Please, 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 please. Isn't it annoying? I mean, you know, we've got a cat who's like, you know, and it's like, or the dog, or you know, or any number of people or little kids, you know, I was working with a student this past week, and their response was, I don't effing know, I don't effing know, I don't effing know, I don't effing know, I don't effing know. And they have found that when they don't effing know, people stop asking them.
Yeah.
When F you, I don't effing know, is the pat response, it's really easy to build up a wall, to have people stop asking. So, with difficult people, part of it is to stop expecting them to look like us, to be like us, to want to satisfy us, to want to make us happy. We're in a world where that just isn't what is going on. And when we start to let go of that expectation, the divine has created a world filled with people who want to satisfy and gratify me. Hallelujah. If that's my expectation, then I may be disappointed. Michael is very clear. I have some disappointments about some of our political figures in the world. You may be clear about that. Find something, anything. This week on The Daily Show, Leslie Jones went to people in New York and she took out pictures and she said, what's a nice thing that you can say about this person? What's a nice thing?
Yeah.
And you know, she was like, I don't know how it's even possible. This one, I don't know how you can possibly say something nice about this person. But one of the people was very good at finding a nice thing. They have nice hair. They have nice teeth.
Mm-hmm.
They're wearing a nice hat in that picture. They're not here. They're not here. I'm pleased that I'm seeing them, but I'm not having to be with them. What is the thing that we can find that we're grateful for with our difficult people? I can be grateful that I have never been in a room with a former president who shall remain unnamed. I've not actually been in the room with any former presidents, but one particular former president would not generate feelings of joy, bliss, happiness, beauty. Where can I find gratitude? So, difficult people, what's something that we can appreciate? What's something we can find? When we feel overwhelmed, has anyone ever felt so overwhelmed with what's going on with our lives? That's a little challenging. That sensation of overwhelmed, an emotional experience that frequently accompanies overwhelm, can be called anxiety. There's just too much. One of the magical antidotes to anxiety and to overwhelm is the experience of curiosity. It's hard to have both anxiety and curiosity. In the same way that Stephanie was identifying in the reading, it's hard to have both gratitude and depression. It's hard for them both to have center stage. It's hard for anxiety and curiosity to have center stage together. One of the things that can happen with overwhelm is that we can get so familiar with the things in our lives. We can get so familiar with things that we simply take them for granted. Take a moment, consider something you've taken for granted. And when you take something for granted, do you even notice it anymore? Do you even notice to give it appreciation? It's just another thing. Like in the reading, there was the comment about the guitar. That dusty guitar in the corner, what is it doing? Is it creating feelings of, oh my God, I should be using it. Oh my God, why am I not using it? Those things that we take for granted, what if we take them out for thanks? One of the recommendations from the people who help inspire some of the ideas for today's talk is to have our list of things. You know, I've got 100 emails that I've got to write, and I've got these 3 reports that I've got to write, and I've got this meeting tomorrow at 7 a.m., and then I've got another meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m., and that's one work day, and my work day isn't supposed to be from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. It's not supposed to be that kind of a work day. The antidote that they recommend is, and I love it.
Oh.
I have all of this and I love it. What if we turn it around and we recognize what it is that we love about it? I've got these emails. Well, we live in a time where emails are what's easy. It's so much easier to send a thank you email than it was to send a thank you note when I was a little kid. It's so much easier to text somebody. I've got all of these things I've got to do, and I love it. I'm still able to do things. I'm still in a position of possibility. Can I embrace it? Can I say that I love it? Can I let that proclamation, again, in the reading, Stephanie talked about saying what we're grateful about out loud. Sometimes we get so used to telling ourselves the story about how miserable things are. What happens when we tell ourselves that we divert the direction of the story? One of the reasons that I love some of the stories that have come out, like in the movie Cruella. Cruella de Vil in the original cartoon was not a sympathetic character. There was not a whole lot of reason to love Cruella de Vil. But in the movie, there's an understanding about where she came from, about how she became who she became. There's a backstory that we don't see. Similarly, something that I've talked about here before, and you haven't heard it, Rosie, but I've talked quite a lot about the story of Wicked. And in the story of Wicked, I mean, being raised as a little kid, there was the good Dorothy, and there was the Wicked Witch of the West. The Wicked Witch of the West was not a sympathetic character. But in Daniel McGuire's book, it takes the story from Elphaba's perspective. What was it like being born green? What was it like being born, we found out, with really sharp teeth? What was it like being such an outcast? What was it like going to college and ending up a roommate with the beautiful Glinda? When we're overwhelmed, what's the other side of the story? What's the other way of speaking to and learning about the story? Years ago, there was a book I read by one of the people who was a student of person who did The Hobbit. J.R. Tolkien had a student, and his student wrote a book called Tigana. And in Tigana, it told the story of an oppressed people, but the story also told the story of the oppressors. And it tried to offer a perspective of what is it that we're seeing here. Thanksgiving may be a really great time to let go of some of the stories that we've had. We have this story about how Native Americans essentially saved the settlers who arrived here. The settlers who arrived here were ill-equipped to manage, to navigate.
They were dying.
But the story is about how the Indians helped the Pilgrims, and they all had a happy meal together. And, it's like McDonald's, and they had their happy meal, and they get their little things. But the settlers didn't give Happy Meal treats to the people who saved them. The settlers created a whole mythology about how fabulous they were. And we're still wrestling with that mythology today. I remember learning about genocide in Rwanda, being horrified. I remember learning about genocide with Hitler and the genocide of the Jewish people and the genocide of all of the other groups, because they weren't the one true race that Hitler identified. The problem is that the U.S. was very engaged in our own genocide, and settlers have been very engaged in genocide. I say this because part of it is to reclaim the whole story. And to be grateful that there's still a voice. One of the huge powers of the Jewish Torah is the Jewish Torah was able to keep creating a story after defeat, after defeat, after defeat. It's very unusual for a defeated people to have a story, because usually the defeaters, usually the conquerors, destroy the story. But the Jewish people had the brilliance to be able to figure out how to have their story carry on. So it's an inspiration for gratitude that they figured out a way to beat the conquerors. Three other points I want to make in terms of gratitude. When we're in the midst of health problems, it's a rough one. How do we feel grateful in the midst of health problems? I've told this story before, but I think it's useful to come back to. I was in dialysis, and the person that was there at the same time was Kenny. And if I thought things were bad for me, things were always worse for Kenny. Kenny went in to the hospital because his, when you have dialysis, and I'll show people here, when you have dialysis, they have to create some kind of port so that your blood can come out of your body and come back into your body and go through a machine. And in order to do that, they either like insert a port, which can be prone to infection, or they build something that they can use needles and inject into it. So, this is big enough that they could find, there's a place for needles, 2 needles. I mean, they're big needles, they're not little needles, because the idea is we're moving all of the blood that's inside of you, and we're putting it through this machine, and the machine is cleaning your blood and putting it back in your body. And again, I show this because the thing was that Kenny had a problem with his port, and he went to the hospital, and while he was in the hospital to get the port fixed, he got 3rd-degree burns because the care team hadn't watched what they were doing. But was Kenny somebody who complained about it? Was Kenny somebody who said, I'm going to sue their butts? Was Kenny somebody who's like, do you know what those miserable, stupid, the other piece about Kenny was when they had put the kidney in, they put it in backwards. They put it in upside down. They put it in wrong. So he finally got a transplanted kidney, but it couldn't last because it got put in wrong. So Kenny had this series of mishaps, significant, if you're an attorney, you'd be like, oh, this is prime material for me. But Kenny was kind and thoughtful and generous. He was never telling a whiny story about how bad it was for him that he got burned. He's like, sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes people make mistakes. So I look at my experience, I was in ministerial school. I was a practitioner. It's like, how do I explain this failure in my body? And the story that I have is that I got to meet Kenny. I got to meet a Buddha who was able to be a loving presence. Kenny would come to dialysis every day that he came in, and he'd have a bag full of snacks. And he'd put the snacks out, and it was so different to me because it's like, you're not supposed to eat, you're not supposed to drink, you're not supposed to do it. Kenny was like, he had his beverages, he had his snacks, and he shared them with all of the people. So who wouldn't want to be around Kenny? Because Kenny was this, like, a party. Kenny was like this party in the dialysis center. And my experience on dialysis was getting to meet Kenny and was getting to encounter the Kenny. So the trick with health problems is to be able to say, I'm still alive. This health problem that I'm going through, I'm still alive. If you have a health problem, you're alive. You're not dead. When you're dead, you don't have health problems anymore. They stop. There's only one point in time where the health problems stop, and that's when we're dead. So instead of like, oh, this happened, we can go into the whiny, oh, it happened, and I'm going to come back to that later, but I'm just saying, the thing about responding to health problems is to be able to see that we have a chance to move forward in the midst of our health problems. I think about where, if I lived 100 years ago, I wouldn't be alive. The technologies that keep me alive and have kept me alive are amazing. Insulin's only been around for 100 years. Now there's still, the spike cost is still amazing, even though Congress is trying to get through some spending limits. But it's available. There are things that enable people to be alive. If you think about any health condition you have, do you live in a time where they can be addressing it? Do you live in a time where they can at least be looking into it? They haven't figured it out, but is there treatment to make things a little bit better, to be a little bit more comfortable? If you're still alive, can you find ways to feel comfortable? Can you find ways to feel more joy? Can you find ways to experience more beauty? We still have a life. We still have the precious moments available, even with health problems. Now, I alluded to this with the beginning, talking about my mom. It's harder to feel gratitude when someone's passed on, when someone has died, when someone has transitioned. We don't like losing people to death. And like I shared the stories of my mom, there are things that my mom gave me that have made me who I am. So for those people who have passed on, for those people whose passages have broken our hearts, who have left us less whole, we're less whole because of how much they meant to us, how much they gave to us. We can use that as a reminder for the people that are still here. How do we engage with them in a way that genuinely shows joy? That genuinely shows appreciation? How do we not let them be in our list of take for granteds? Death is a beginning of a new way to be without that person. I remember Reverend Kathy Ann Lewis talked about when her grandmother died, and she loved her grandmother. She made the intention that she was going to become a certain characteristic of her grandmother, but she didn't go around saying, I want to be like this, like my grandmother. She took it upon herself to say, let this quality of my grandmother start to live more powerfully in me. Kathy Ann used that passage as an intention to let herself change. She knew that she wasn't like that particular grandmother. But she set the intention. And she did find, a year later, the people closest to her started to notice something that hadn't existed before. It's the power of intention. It's the power of gratitude. It's the power of saying, I will be more than I was before. How might we be more than we were before? So, if you can put on the moment. We have a moment of Leslie Jones is a rescue for Thanksgiving. Yep.
Leslie goes back to basics. I'll just say, these transgender people, I just... Leslie will even step by the kids' table to teach them how to shut down problematic relatives.
No, okay, good. From the diaphragm. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Talking to your family is hard. Watching Leslie Jones shut them down is easy.
And I think it should be acknowledged that this dinner is taking place on Cherokee land.
Shut up! All this land is Cherokee. And we talking about, can you spell indigenous? You can't even spell it, can you? Shut up! Don't agree with me. Who invited me to this?
For all holidays with a family are included.
So I wanted to take that moment because sometimes we can find ourselves complaining.
No.
Have you ever found yourself complaining? That bubble over your head, that person is talking and you're like, ah! Ah! Wouldn't you love to just be able to do the Leslie Jones?
Yeah.
And teach younger people to be able to do that too. To join you in the, ah!
Shut up.
We can catch ourselves complaining. And we can channel our own inner Leslie Joneses to shut up, to shut that up. We can channel that inner Leslie Jones to ah in response to our own whiny, complaining voices. Because do we really want to sit with our own, in my opinion, sitting with our own whiny, complaining voices is every bit as bad as sitting with that miserable table at Thanksgiving. You know, that table where I remember my ex-father-in-law would love to get into conflicted conversations about how the only decent culture in the world came from Europe. Ah! Ah! And how, you know, if India was so good, then why do they have a caste system? Ah! Ah! This was at Thanksgiving. This is Thanksgiving. Really? Is this the choice we're making for Thanksgiving? And the thing was that my father's wife loved to bait him. Yeah. So between him talking about this and her saying, I think you're so much better. Ha! Ha! Carol and Al were just, you know, this odd couple of horrors in terms of that Thanksgiving dinner.
Especially after a couple of drinks.
Oh, especially after a couple of drinks. Pay attention. How hard is it to catch ourselves complaining and embodying that same misery that we see here? And again, I wanted to bring laughter to the room, and I think it did. I heard laughter in response to Leslie Jones's performance. We can catch ourselves complaining, and we can choose. Do I keep it going, or do I stop it? You haven't, Rosie, but I've shared a lot. There is a brilliant Bob Newhart clip where a patient comes to Bob and says, you know, I really want to get over my fear of leaving my house. And he's like, that's great, we can do that in 2 minutes. So she's like, so I'll tell you about it, you know, I'm really afraid to leave my house. And Bob's answer was, stop it. And she's like, don't you need to hear the story? No, stop it. I don't need to hear any story. I don't need that. Stop it. But there's background. I don't care. Stop it. The Bob Newhart, the Leslie Jones, we can stop ourselves complaining when we catch ourselves. And we can replace the complaint with a gratitude. It's a really good story our complaints have created. It's so good. We caught people into our story. They're sympathetic. They're nodding with us. They're agreeing. They are sympathizing. They are loving us in the midst of our suffering. Have we lifted the room at all? What do our complaints do to ourselves? What do they do to others? I mean, sometimes we're with some people who are like, oh wait, you think that's bad? I can trump that, literally. The notion of these complaints, we can catch it. We can catch ourselves and we can stop it. So I have an affirmation for us, and then I have a song to conclude the thing. So gratefully I stay present to beauty. Gratefully I stay present to beauty in my times with those I love.
In my times with those I love.
Gratefully I stay present to beauty.
Gratefully I stay present to beauty.
To the times with those I love.
To the times with those I love.
And finally, gratefully I stay present to beauty.
Gratefully I stay present to beauty.
In my times with those I love.
With the times that those I love.
And so it is.
And so it is.
And this final song comes from Johnny Diaz called Breathe.
Notice you were able to play your trump card.
Alarm clock screaming, bare feet hit the floor. It's off to the races, everybody out the door. I'm feeling like I'm falling behind. It's a crazy life. 90 miles an hour, going fast as I can, trying to push a little harder, trying to get the upper hand. So much to do in so little time. It's a crazy life. It's ready, set, go. It's another wild day with the stresses on the rise, and my heart feels saying, just breathe, just breathe. Come and rest at my feet and be, just breathe. Chaos calls, but all you really need is to just breathe. Third cup of Joe just to get me through the day. Wanna make the most of time, but I feel it's slipping away. I wonder if there's something more to this crazy life. I'm busy, 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 and it's no surprise to see that I only have time for me. There's gotta be something more to this crazy life. I'm hanging on tight to another wild day when it starts to fall apart, and my heart hears say, just breathe, just breathe. Come and rest at my feet and be, just breathe. Chaos calls, but all you really need is to fill your lungs with peace of God that overcomes. Just breathe. Let your weary spirit rest. Lay down what's good and find what's best. Just breathe. Just breathe. Come and rest at my feet and breathe. Just breathe. Chaos calls, but all you really need is to just breathe. Just breathe.